Greetings to you, Crocodile Army. The 2018 midterm elections are just a couple days away as this is being uploaded, and at this point, short of some huge world event, I think whatever the results will be aren't going to change much between now and then. There should also be no more excuses on either side. Whatever happens, happens, and that's a reflection of the national mood. The House will be the best bellwether of the national mood because basically every voter gets to vote for that. Senators and governor's race results will be a lot more based on geography, but certainly no less important. The Senate may actually see a net loss of a couple seats for Democrats due to the states that happen to have elections this cycle, which I'm sure will give Trump an opportunity to create a victory where one may not exist. For governorships, I think Democrats are in good shape to win some big ones, but if I had the power to pick one to win automatically, I would definitely pick Stacey Abrams in Georgia. Georgia's in the deep south, with the expected racial divisions in play here since there's a black candidate against a white candidate. The Secretary of State of Georgia, Brian Kemp, is running on the Republican side, and while in office, he's presided over the canceling of nearly 2 million voter registrations for sketchy reasons, and has attempted to close many polling places in predominantly black areas of the state. Republicans have always been well aware that the harder they make it to vote overall, the more that tends to favor Republicans. And this is even easier for Republicans in places like Georgia, with areas that are so heavily black to target. They've also been targeting groups that are driving black voters to the polls for early voting. They've been pulled over by state police and harassed. During Kemp's tenure, an elderly poll worker was even charged with improper assistance in casting a ballot for helping a new voter at an electronic voting machine. She was acquitted 6 years later, but the message was sent. This is all very reminiscent of Jim Crow-era Georgia, where voter suppression was business as usual. Abrams also needs to get over 50% to avoid a runoff, which are often bad for Democrats. The run-up to this election has been marred by political violence. There was the so-called MAGA bomber in Florida sending pipe bombs to a bunch of Trump critics. This is the weirdo who covered his van in pro-Trump conspiracy theories and violent imagery. He had a huge list of everyone Trump said is terrible, including CNN and even Republicans who criticized Trump. I'm really surprised there hasn't been more of that kind of thing happening, consider the constant enemy of the people claims in the last few years against the free press. Conservative pundits immediately went with the false flag excuse, probably thinking he'd never be caught, but he was caught very quickly and it was clear that it was not a false flag at all. Then 11 Jewish people were killed in a Pittsburgh synagogue in a mass shooting by a maniac who thought George Soros and Jewish people in general were helping the migrant caravan in Mexico. He thought a few thousand tired and hungry people from Central America were an invasion force of some kind. Gee, I wonder where he got that idea, Donald. It's impossible for me to think of anyone as morally or intellectually on top of their game if they honestly buy Trump's rhetoric on immigrants, legal or illegal, and really much of any of Trump's rhetoric about anything at this point. Also, all of those YouTubers who pretend to be impartial but constantly parrot right-wing talking points, what is the big deal about just admitting where you stand? I figure as soon as the charges of leftist come out at me, that's when it's pretty obvious that they're very conservative. I see this on Facebook all the time, where someone will try to put this centrist face on, telling people, well, yeah, Trump's kind of stupid, but Democrats can't be trusted either because of various reasons. Then I take a glance at their page and it's full of MAGA memes. Anyway, if the election goes well and the House goes Democratic, it will mean we can get through a whole term of Trump with very little damage legislatively, which is great. These executive orders and policies from his cabinet can all be scrapped with a new president. I can't say the same for the makeup of the Supreme Court, unfortunately, but that'll have to wait. Please stay healthy for at least 2 more years, RBG. For those of you watching the election, I have some tips for you to help understand how things are going. In the House, Democrats need a net gain of 23 seats to take control. Most pundits believe they'll get that number and then some, to hold a single-digit edge when it's all done. If they don't take the House, that's definitely a bad night. If they win 23 to 30 seats for a small majority, that's a decent night, and more than 30 seats is a great night. In the Senate, gaining seats or staying at 51 is great. Losing just a seat or two is decent, but more than that would be bad. I would also say that flipping at least 3 of the 4 of Michigan, Florida, Georgia, and Wisconsin governor's races would be great. 2 out of 4 is decent, and less than that is a bad night. Remember, too, when you're looking at early returns in governor and Senate races, that the rural areas which lean more Republican tend to come in first, so don't let those early returns scare you. Now we'll find out if Trump is really as popular as he says he is.
Nerf this!